So what do you do when your marriage is in such a good place and you're just blissfully happy? Inappropriately, this is if you're Prince Harry, inappropriately lunge for a hug with another woman who has a boyfriend and was completely shocked by this right next to your said wife, who I presume was looking away.
They live in their own world, in their own bubble, and Meghan has her truth. There are so many issues going on here.
Harry's awkward smile really said it all. It's like he's looking very unhappy. Look at that. And then he realizes, oh gosh, she is recording me again. I better smile.
Harry and Meghan, I think at this point, are having so many problems behind the scenes, Dan, that this is why you see all this chaos on the front end here in the media, because there's so much happening that we don't see. And this is why it looks chaotic. Does it make sense?
They exist in a world of their own making, wrapped up in their own bubble of reality, and Meghan holds tightly to her version of the truth. There's an undercurrent of tension and unspoken issues bubbling just beneath the surface. Picture this. At a high-profile photo call, Meghan reaches out, hopeful for a connection, but David Foster, an influential figure in the room, completely ignores her gesture, looking right past her, as if she were invisible. This moment, small on the surface, reveals the deeper cracks forming in her relationships and social circles. Then there's the unusual display of control she exerts, subtly directing others on where to stand and how to pose for pictures, almost as if she's orchestrating a carefully curated scene. It's an odd dynamic, and it screams of someone desperate to shape the narrative around her. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan find themselves attending events that feel more like obligations than opportunities because, frankly, they don't have much else going on professionally.
Weirdly inappropriate, someone who claims to be a member of the British royal family. It's certainly not something you would see most royals do.
You definitely would not, Dan. And it came across as very odd. I feel you in the back of my throat. Maybe that's a British thing. I'm not quite sure what Harry is trying to get across there. Perspective comes across as very odd, going in and lunging for a hug and a cuddle, as she describes it. Again, shows Harry kind of desperately trying to figure out, I think, what this post-royal life means. Because they're desperately trying to be royal.
Jobs, projects, income, it's all painfully quiet on that front, and sadly, the financial strain is very real. I say this not to gloat, but to highlight the gravity of their situation. Gary, a close confidant, is rumored to be facing serious financial troubles, and these hardships are a significant factor behind the growing distance and tension in the marriage. It's a struggling partnership, playing out against the backdrop of relentless public scrutiny. Meanwhile, at an important charity auction happening live in the same venue, real bids with real money are flying to support worthy causes. But Meghan is caught up in her own bubble, filming herself throughout the event as if the purpose lies in documenting her presence rather than participating. She confidently announces to her phone camera that she now holds a $50,000 bid.
As Princess Carparkle put it, Meghan Markle directing David Foster and Catherine McPhee at his own gala, then cackling away. She loves the attention from the camera and red carpet. She does that whole over-emoting, that crazy husband of mine laugh. It's too much and phony AF. Han said how cute Meghan was spotted doing her favourite thing, directing people where to stand on the red carpet at David Foster's Foundation's event. And Meghan's mole went further, posting, when a picture tells the real story, stand Meghan and Harry.
Meghan was completely blanked by David Foster when she reached out her hand at the photo call. We also had the usual creepy body language of Meghan telling people where to stand and how to pose for photographs. So Harry and Meghan were at this event because they've got nothing else to do. They've got no jobs or anything. There's no money coming in, sadly. I say that with no pleasure at all. They are in big financial trouble. And that's one of the reasons why the marriage is crumbling.
Adding a cute little voiceover that feels staged and offbeat amidst the earnest atmosphere of generosity around her. As the ceremonial pipers step into the space, adding a dramatic and celebratory tone, Meghan abruptly halts her movement. She calls over her assistant to pull out the phone and start recording an action that changes the entire framing of the moment. Meanwhile, her husband moves purposefully ahead of her, consistently appearing at least 20 feet in front in every frame as they walk down a long corridor. This subtle spacing tells a story all on its own, a silent but telling gap between them. Just then, the room's energy shifts. as a very famous singer takes center stage, a moment that promises to add yet another layer to this unfolding drama. The spotlight hits her like a beacon as she bursts onto the stage, moving with wild, abandoned arms flailing, hollering, owning every inch of the space. One onlooker described it perfectly. She was putting on a show so bright and loud that you couldn't help but have your eyes locked on her every move. The entire room buzzed with energy, caught up in her whirlwind performance.
As Nancy Sidley reminded us before this moment even happened, Meghan had to stop walking, tell her assistant to pull out her phone and start recording. That's why Harry is so far ahead of her. Imagine living your life having to set up and record every moment just to feel validated, including your engagement.
Their star is definitely on the decline in the entertainment industry. Things are just not moving and shaking as they used to be. And the couple, I think, is definitely feeling the stress of that, particularly Meghan, who has, I think, dreamed for years and years of being this mover and shaker in the entertainment industry, and has been kind of shocked to see herself fall from grace so incredibly hard. I think it's been quite difficult for her to try to figure this out. And of course, the main culprit is the lack of talent for the both of them.
But then, shift your gaze to her husband. Watch his face closely during all this. He's doing something he's been trapped in for years now, a delayed smile, like a glitch in a long-forgotten recording. Just as the beat drops, he manages a split-second grin, almost too tired to fully commit, then fades back to an expression so flat you wonder if his spirit is somewhere else entirely. When he thinks no one's watching, that half-hearted smile disappears altogether, revealing something colder beneath the surface. A viewer at home tuning in with sharp eyes commented somewhere online later that night, "He looks deeply unhappy." But the moment he catches her filming him again, the gears shift. That tired smile jolts back, this time forced and calculated, because he knows she's watching, and somehow that demands the performance of happiness. And here's the kicker: that night wasn't just any night. That was the times night she'd been scheming for, the night she orchestrated carefully behind closed doors. Every moment, every move was a thread in a web she'd spun herself a facade, polished and rehearsed to perfection, utterly false beneath the glitter. Now,
55,000 return to bid, everybody. Come on, bid cards up now. I need $60,000.
And there's just so much going on. I think Harry is in a position now. He has to, I know I always go back, but I don't understand why we can't see that the problem is Meghan and what she is doing to Harry.
The hubby lunging at Sydney Christmas. There was no Sydney Christmas reference whatsoever on Meghan Markle's Instagram, and that doesn't surprise me because it was highly inappropriate, I thought, of Prince Harry.
this singer, 31 years old, a rising star from the UK, has an impressive backstory. Just a couple years ago, she won a major talent competition that catapulted her into the spotlight. She's nearly a decade younger than her husband, bringing fresh energy and raw ambition into the mix. On that night, she performs two songs that resonate deeply. First, a striking ballad called Tomorrow, and then the iconic My Way. Before launching into her second piece, she leans into the mic with a cheeky grin, quipping lightly, "The king says sorry he couldn't be here tonight, but he sent me instead." The audience chuckles, and even he, her husband, laughs. A rare moment of lightness from a man who hadn't cracked a genuine smile in months. But the brief laughter fades as she steps down from the stage. There he is, arms wide open, moving towards her with a tenderness that seems to say more than words ever could. And then he tells her something simple but heavy with meaning. "I felt every note." The words hung awkwardly, like a lump lodged deep in his throat, an uncomfortable phrase that made me rewind it over and over in my mind, trying to decode what on earth he thought he was saying to a woman he'd only just met, after barely a minute and a half, and with his wife just a floor away. It's baffling. I've played that moment through again and again, yet nothing makes complete sense or feels appropriate. Then,
Prince Harry has given his royal seal of approval to 2024 Britain's Got Talent winner Sydney Christmas. He told Sid, quote, he felt every word in the back of his throat after she performed Tomorrow from Anne and Frank Sinatra's My Way in front of him at David Foster's charity gala in Canada over the weekend. Speaking from Canada, Sid told me, when I was on stage, I joked about meeting his dad before adding, sorry he couldn't make it, he sent me instead. Oh my God, I say such silly things when I'm nervous, but Harry started laughing. Here's where it gets weird. Got down off stage. He just came forward and gave me a big, and he went, Sydney, I felt every word. I really felt that. Revealing how the fifth in line to the throne ditched royal protocol, Sydney continued, he just went in for the hug. And I was like, why not?
the woman's own take on the encounter comes into play, and honestly, it might be the most amusing part of this entire story, and she's definitely not trying to brag or stir controversy. Her version is refreshingly straightforward. She simply says, "This is where things get weird," and recalls how he just went right in for a hug. Her reaction, an almost casual, "Well, why not?" She's kind, even diplomatic, considering the fact that this is a married man we're talking about. But here's where it gets even more fascinating, and this has somehow slipped right past everyone else following the story. The very next morning, she posts a message of gratitude, describing her experience as a pinch me moment, a phrase loaded with disbelief and delight. She calls him the loveliest soul she's ever encountered, and then tags an Instagram account that's curious, to say the least, Sussex Royal. But here's the twist, no one has posted anything on that account in 6 years. It's basically a digital tombstone, complete with a little blue verification checkmark. Of all the possible places she could have tagged to share her thanks, this was the one she chose, an account that's essentially frozen in time, inactive.
Meghan was completely left out of the singer's post, with the inactive Sussex Royal tagged in her place rather than any of Meghan's own accounts. So this extremely experienced has deliberately snubbed Meghan and sent out a clear message, which is, get out of the way, sister. Get out of the way, because I am coming for your man.
There was a very telling moment, which makes it quite clear things are not good in this marriage.
Your kids and Meghan must be so proud of you. Do they tell you every day?
They tell me every day that they're proud of me.
She's not proud of you, she's using you, but she's not proud of you. It's almost so tragic that he can't see it. But then he has obviously made a decision to not acknowledge anything, to not try and apologize, to not try and win back public support.
And entirely irrelevant now. And perhaps most surprisingly of all, not a single person in that couple's circle noticed and reached out to suggest the mistake or clarify the situation. Meghan, notably, doesn't even enter the picture here. It's almost as if this whole episode exists independently of her, floating in a bubble of its own strange reality. Her name isn't even mentioned, no tag, no shout-out, no hint whatsoever. It's as if she doesn't exist in that post. Not a single word of gratitude, not even a quick thank you slipped in casually. Now, before anyone jumps to say the girl was just careless or forgetful, let's pause and really take in what was unfolding on the other side of the story. Meghan was far from silent that weekend. She was posting non-stop. There were updates about the auction, videos from Piper, snapshots of the dress, the flowers.
People have seen them together. Oh dear, my goodness, Harry's growing. Is it a backbone? Or, my goodness, maybe he's not going to be able to juggle those balls outside of windows anymore, because
some of us have lost more of our hair. Some of us look younger than we did before. Some of us look older.
They didn't laugh. He's in a room with his biggest supporters. They didn't even laugh. I think this is going to be the wake-up moment for Prince Harry, actually. I mean, if anything tells you you've lost the room, it's that. When your biggest supporters are no longer by your side. I mean, he stuck to the speech. I was actually furious by the end of it. I'm not going to play you any more other than this last bit, because he still believes that it's his place to lecture the world.
Every little detail fully documented. But curiously, Not one mention of the singer. It was like two women at the very same gathering, aimed to document the night, as if they weren't even in the same room publishing updates for a full 48 hours straight, like a pair of estranged neighbors deliberately ignoring each other's existence. Picture it, two people in proximity, yet pretending there's an invisible fence between them, like they're two strangers who just happen to share the same space. It's baffling, especially considering the stories you hear about grown-up social gatherings. This wasn't some casual oversight. It was calculated avoidance, cold and deliberate. And once you realize that, you start to see the cracks in what was supposedly a one-off, a single, strange night where something weird happened.
Everyone in that room, other than Alison Hammond, seemed to be against him, were not laughing along. It's, to me, a seminal moment. It's the moment where Harry will have to realise that he's even lost the Invictus Games crowd. They were his loyalists. But am I reading it wrong?
It was quite cringe. You heard nothing when he tried to make that. He's in a position now where he has to address a lot of the ills of his life. How can he even try to move on in this moment that is supposed to be his everything, when there is so much looming around everything, around his security, his wife, his father? He just brings too much negativity with his own life.
But this, my friends, is where the story takes a deeper, far more revealing turn. Flashback 4 weeks earlier to July 10th, at the National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham, a key location with the Invictus Games just a year away. This was live, prime-time morning television, with half the country probably eating their breakfast, unaware that behind the scenes, plans were already unraveling. Meghan was expected to be there, front and centre, representing, supporting, and standing by. But at the last moment, she pulled out. The official word was security concerns. So, that morning, the man was left on his own. No one beside him. No smiling partner linking arms, a stark contrast that didn't go unnoticed. And here's the kicker. The moment she was gone, watch what happens. A woman sideswiped the camera, heading straight for him, stepping into the spotlight he was left to hold alone. And the way he reacted, it's telling. He grabbed hold of her, maybe to steady himself.
But also in the context, Lady C, of this missing engagement ring, which has been off for anywhere from 4 days to 5 months. So I just want to show you what Maureen reported.
Meghan has not been wearing her engagement ring in public for at least 5 days. Now, Yahoo is actually reporting she hasn't been wearing it in public for 4 months. But most news outlets only realized this about 5 days ago, which tells us a lot.
Maybe she has been, I don't know, I'm only speculating now, but maybe she was quite deliberately keeping off the engagement ring to get the message across that there might be trouble in paradise. I think it's called jerking the man's chain. There's even an expression for it. He's not had his chain jerked to such an extent that he's going to be having Meghan leading him around by the collar yet again. But I think he will be led by the collar by Meghan, by the
Yes, indeed.
Maybe something more, and the whole dynamic shifted. What this tells us is far more than just a missed appearance. It exposes a relationship that already had tension, separation, and moments of vulnerability playing out in public sight. This wasn't a coincidence or random circumstance. It was the beginning of a reveal. Picture this: two people, caught in the middle of a moment so light-hearted and carefree, it's almost contagious, laughing, swaying side to side, bouncing around like they're the last two guests left at a wedding reception, not quite ready to let the party end. It's a Friday morning, and he turns to her with a genuine smile, telling her she's incredibly excitable in the best way possible. He's not just saying it, he means it. He says that this spark she carries, this lively energy, is something he really loves about her, and that everyone else seems to appreciate it too. As if the moment wasn't already loaded with warmth, he casually reveals that he's one of her secret admirers, completely unprompted. And then, as if to add a personal touch that feels incredibly genuine, he shares that his children can't get enough of watching her on the baking show. It's these little, unexpected moments that give you a glimpse into a side of him that's rarely seen open, affectionate, and unapologetically real. That same morning,
I've told you before, and I'm the only journalist in the world with my 2036 Tesla Power Brain, that Meghan is competing with Harry and always has, because she's pathologically transactional and she competes with everyone, including her own husband. She competes with her father, Thomas Markle. She competed half-siblings. She competed with her ex-husband, Trevor Engelson. The minute she got that part in Suits, he helped her with her career. She gets the part in Suits, $50,000 an episode, sends the wedding ring back to him by return of post.
She was perfectly happy to do it. The baby that had managed prenatal skills that he was diving from the abdomen to between her knees. That was okay. That could have been dispensed with, because there's nothing she can sue me for. And if she tried, she and I and Harry all know that we will end up in a court of law and that they will then have to testify.
Barmy, a close friend, stepped up and made a heartfelt speech. He wove in humor effortlessly, cracking a light joke about how some of their circle have aged and others have, well, lost a few hairs, something that sent genuine laughter rippling through the room. It wasn't forced or staged. It felt like a group of friends enjoying each other's company, free from pretense. After the laughter, they dashed over to a laser course, ready to take on a playful challenge. He gave it his all, racing against her. And even though he didn't win, here's the kicker, he didn't mind losing one bit. Watching him for those 90 minutes was like witnessing a man truly savoring the moment, fully living his life without any reservations. But here's the twist, the kind of detail that stopped me in my tracks. This very same Friday morning was observed not just by casual onlookers, but by the woman who spent 2 years pouring her heart and soul into writing his biography, and by that afternoon, she had gone public with what she'd seen, sharing it openly.
It's amazing that after 7 years with Harry, Meghan still doesn't know how to behave in the approximation of ladylike behavior. She's still that rather greasy little chancer that she always was. So I'm not at all intimidated by her or by him. And all I can say is, if they think that they have an action that they can bring against me, bring it on. I'll see them in a court of law. I am supremely unworried. And as for the idea that evidently is mooted in New Idea as well, and pointing out to her that notwithstanding the fact that you've been a member of the royal family for 7 years, you still can't get over the fact that you behave like trash. You still don't understand, so you behave like trash. Oh, sorry. You behave in such a classy way that everybody despises you.
The pattern was clear. Harry appears significantly happier when Meghan isn't in the picture, not weeks later with stars aligned or with reflective hindsight, but right then, captured in real time. And on that same day, there was one broadcaster who had been pointing this out for months, reinforcing a perspective few were willing to voice quite so clearly. The world seemed to be witnessing two very different versions of the same man, and the truth, it was becoming impossible to ignore. Imagine the scene, Harry, standing there, caught in a swirl of reactions, but instead of the expected support, he's met mostly with silent disapproval. Everyone except Alison Hammond seemed to be quietly turning against him. Not a single laugh joined the room, aside from hers. To me, this wasn't just an awkward moment, it felt like a turning point, something seismic. Harry was starting to realize he might have even lost the loyalty of the Invictus Games community, the very group that had once stood firmly behind him. These were his cheerleaders, his allies, and yet, the energy in that room suggested a shifting tide.
Meganian and Heroldian and stupid, cack-handedly naive as those two rather slick but inefficient operators are, that I was going to perform down to the gutter level that they perform at.
The problem is the foundations, as I see it, the foundations on which they built their brand are crumbling away.
Harry, I think, is floundering. I think he is completely and utterly lost, doesn't know what to do, hoping maybe working things out with his dad might lead him back into a royal role and a royal life he probably really didn't want to give up in the first place, but Meghan convinced him to do it and he did it. And now now he just doesn't know what to do. As it turns out, he doesn't know actually how to live and work in the real world. And if you leave royal life, in some ways you are leaving a very protected bubble. And now that they're outside it, Harry's like, oh, I guess that protected bubble wasn't so bad after all. And Harry just looks ever more like a complete and utter joke in basically anything he does.
Was I overthinking it? Context matters deeply here, especially when we talk about something as small yet symbolic as a missing engagement ring, a ring that hasn't been worn for anything between 4 days and as long as 5 months, depending on which story you believe. The mystery of that ring felt like the tip of the iceberg, a subtle sign of broader tensions. Now, to unpack this fully, let's turn to what Maureen has documented. She's one of the few journalists with a voice sharp enough to pierce through the noise. She described Meghan's expression as more mouth closed, rather than the usual bright grin, paired with a hard, unwavering stare directly into the camera. Her gaze, which Maureen compared to a high-fashion model's pose, was as deliberate as it was unsettling. It felt less like a candid moment and more like a staged performance. One person seemed deeply immersed in this portrayal of marriage, while the other stood beside it in a way that appeared completely disconnected, almost like an illusion being carefully crafted for the lens. What's fascinating is that before even a second of this footage was public, a woman with decades of experience around the royal family had already predicted the narrative, and people were ready to dismiss her, tearing apart her credibility. This wasn't just any observer.
It does feel, Richard, in that climate, pretty despicable to use the children. So Harry, Meghan spare, for example, posting, although they won't be seen by anyone, of course, but the noise is what matters. The noise will camouflage Harry's recent disaster.
I think with reference to this meeting, the Sussexes have a vested interest as well, you know, certainly commercially. They're not, he's not very bright, she's not very talented, so what have they got? They've got the royal links. Now this is the ultimate, a meeting with the king and also introducing the king, of course, to a future generation. You can understand that. I mean, it's Archie and Lily, it's not their fault. Whether when William ascends the throne, their titles will remain is quite another matter, but then that's for the future.
She'd spent nearly 40 years embedded in the intricate world of that family and had authored a definitive biography on Diana, a book that's been quietly referenced and mined by journalists across Fleet Street for the last 30 years. Back in July, she had called out exactly what was unfolding, highlighting the contrast and tension that many failed to see until it played out live. It was a moment where history and modern drama collided, where past insights met the present with eerie accuracy. When she went live on air, she dropped a bombshell: this marriage was on shaky ground. But instead of a sharp legal rebuttal or a carefully worded denial, what she got back was completely unexpected. There wasn't a lawyer's letter threatening action or demanding retraction. Instead, it was a glossy magazine article attributed vaguely to a source who wasn't brave enough to put their name on anything. The story insisted that the couple was still standing strong, presenting a united front to the world, despite the whispers of trouble beneath the surface. She read that quietly, almost as if savoring the irony.
This lady, this beautiful woman, saying that meeting Harry is a pinch me moment. Harry, you are the most loveliest soul. Meghan will hate that. Meghan will be hissing like a cat, like she'll be absolutely furious.
Harry has woken up and smelled the roses, and he's not happy because it's not roses he's smelling. He's smelling something bad. Poop.
We always talk about how Meghan's like, they took my voice. Well, she's taking Harry's. She's taking his voice. She's taking, his freedoms away from him to do what he wants to do.
Then, without missing a beat, she sat down in front of the camera and unleashed a response that left pretty much everyone stunned. Imagine 7 years of being royalty's confidant, moving in the highest circles of European nobility, and yet here she was, calling out someone who still couldn't manage basic grace in a room. No polished publicist statement, no carefully choreographed attempt to keep things private, nothing. Instead, she openly invited a legal battle right there on live television. The boldest part? She pointed out a crucial detail most hadn't considered. If a lawsuit ever did come, the couple would find themselves sitting in a witness box, answering questions under oath. It was a masterstroke of combining sharp courtroom savvy with undeniable public drama. You could almost see the thrill she was getting from the whole situation. She was definitely having the time of her life. And here's the kicker. Months before any of this unfolded, long before the headlines appeared, she had already voiced a piece of advice that now looked like pure gold. She told the husband he'd be wise to make a move, and that, even then, it was not too late to walk away and save himself. But back then,
I knew Meghan for a bit before she met Harry. Did exactly the same to me, you know. She did that to many people that she knew, that she'd either worked with or was friends with or whatever. It just seems to me she's what I would call a ruthless social climber, who just when people are no longer appropriate parts of her circle, they have to be expunged quickly so she can move on up the ladder.
Absolutely.
And entitlement, try to shift the blame because he can't take responsibility for anything. So of course he has to counter it with, the palace doing something. And of course they're not doing anything. I mean, Harry is the one who's been the proven liar here, who has completely, shown his hand and, what he is about. So, Harry and Meghan, I think at this point are having so many problems behind the scenes, Dan.
No one was really paying attention. Fast forward to July and August, and if you look closely, you can see just how right she was all along. The calm before the storm had already cracked, and the writing was on the wall. For the longest time, whenever rumors or whispers surfaced about their relationship, it was easy to dismiss them. You might have thought, oh, that's just a bit of harmless gossip. A few commentators stirring the pot for a Friday night chat, nothing serious. It was simple to write it off as unkindness or just people playing the media game, with no real foundation. But then, in July, everything shifted. The story didn't come from some random gossip blog or a faceless online forum or even a casual social media post. Instead, the news came from a respected, senior royal correspondent at a major, reputable newspaper, a woman who has followed this couple's story for years, someone deeply familiar with the inside workings and dynamics. She revealed something striking. It's coming from someone who's known him for a long time. He never truly wanted to be estranged from his own family.
Do you think your sister, Meghan Markle, has ruined Prince Harry?
The answer is yes. I mean, every single interview, every single picture, every place they go, Meghan grabs him. Meghan controls him. Meghan tells him no. Meghan stands in front of him. She controls every single situation like she is the star. And she's turned Prince Harry into a man of non-substance, for her own well-being.
I have never seen much contrition from the Sussexes. I don't think they fully understand or appreciate what the word means. Look at Meghan, for example. I mean, she's the most trolled person in the world, we hear, and of course, the lies they spread about the royal family, for example, and famously on Oprah, then of course in the Netflix series, and of course Harry's memoir Spare was a bizarre feat.
But his love for her was strong enough for him to accept that distance, to choose that path regardless. That statement peeled back the layers of carefully maintained appearances. Suddenly, what had once been whispered as mere speculation became solid ground. The veil of secrecy and denial was lifting. This wasn't an anonymous tip or idle chatter anymore. It was a hard-hitting, properly sourced revelation published with full confidence, no hesitation, no vague language to soften the blow. From that moment onward, other journalists and commentators found their footing. They all seemed to land independently on the same stark phrase, leading separate lives. No script, no collaboration, just a shared understanding that something fundamental had shifted. One reporter mentioned how the couple hadn't been seen together in ages. Another described a serious fracture inside their relationship, a gap that felt too wide to bridge. Reporters spoke in hushed tones about the current reality, that they were moving in different directions, with growing distance between them not by accident, but by choice. The narrative had evolved, and suddenly, it was impossible to ignore the truth beneath the headlines. When the two of them finally appeared together at that high-profile gala, it was a moment laden with quiet tension and unspoken drama. A presenter, watching intently from the sidelines, didn't hesitate to voice what many had been silently thinking. For a while, it was clear she must be absolutely exasperated with her so-called hopeless husband. Yes, the words hopeless husband Hammond were spoken outright on afternoon television, a setting where such bluntness used to be unthinkable. What's truly remarkable is that not a single person in the studio even blinked. No gasps, no protests, just silent acceptance.
I'm not afraid of Meghan Markle. She doesn't have a leg to stand on. Meghan Markle is a third-rate, shall we say, greaser and bully. I'm used to first-rate bullies. So she doesn't frighten me in the slightest. And if she tried anything unprecise, I'd crush her the way an elephant crushes an ant. As for Harry, he can't sue me either.
And that, more than any headline or public gesture, marks the profound shift we've witnessed this summer. It's not about some brief hug on camera or even a sparkling ring that captured headlines. It's the change in how those whose reputations hang in the balance are now speaking openly, breaking the old unspoken rules. The morning after that gala event, a presenter on a popular national channel did what everyone watching from home had already pieced together, a candid, rather pointed observation that seemed impossible to ignore. "She must be absolutely furious with her hopeless husband," she said, voice calm but loaded with implication. It was not a throwaway line. It was the reality that was staring everyone in the face, finally voiced out loud. Even more striking, no one in the studio made a fuss. No one objected or tried to change the subject. Silence was their consent, and she probably is furious, but not about what the media desperately wants us to believe. It's not the fleeting hug or the ring that's the real problem. It's the cold, hard math behind it all, the way the story adds up beneath the glitz and gossip. Imagine this, a young woman just 31 years old, holding a talent show trophy symbolic of her rising star and hard-earned success, managed to squeeze just a few seconds of warmth and connection from this man on camera. And yet, in a blink, that brief moment was splashed across every newspaper and tabloid throughout the entire country. That's the power of narrative. It can turn a split second into a lifetime headline. Meanwhile, Meghan has been meticulously crafting a brand and a story over the past 7 years, one where the two of them are inseparable, a single unit presented to the world, one photograph, one headline, one comprehensive story that shapes how millions perceive them. It's a complex dance of image and reality, where every detail is measured and manipulated, where every fleeting gesture carries far more weight than it ever should. This is the intricate web that defines their public existence and the backdrop against which every whispered frustration and unspoken truth now comes crashing into the spotlight. In the world of royalty and media, relationships are never just personal, they're powerful brands in their own right. Take Meghan Markle, for example. To the public, Harry isn't just her husband. He's a priceless asset, the kind of rare and irreplaceable treasure that can't be bought or duplicated. Their bond, their story together, is a carefully constructed narrative that both elevates and defines their public image. But on a pivotal Friday, that narrative took a sharp, unexpected twist. In front of countless cameras and phones, Harry the asset stepped away, handing his attention, his devotion, to someone else. It was a moment broadcast for the world to see, raw and unfiltered, and it sent shockwaves through observers and fans alike. One seasoned broadcaster, who had been watching this dynamic play out for years, saw right through it. Without hesitation, he dissected a particular thank you post, one where Meghan's name was nowhere to be found, and distilled its meaning with brutal clarity. The message was loud and clear. Step aside. This game is changing, and I'm coming for your man. It was a direct challenge, a call to action, a quiet coup in the complex court of public opinion. What struck me most was what the broadcaster shared afterward, a confession laced with both regret and bitter clarity. He had known Meghan before Harry entered the picture, and in those earlier days, she had done to him exactly what many felt she was doing now. It was a pattern Meghan had a habit of swiftly moving on from people who were no longer useful or fitting parts of her social or professional circle. To him, and to many others who saw similar stories unfold, that behavior wasn't just ambition, it was ruthlessness, a calculated social climb where old connections are cut loose without hesitation to make room for the next ascent. This all begs a question that weighs heavily on the minds of many watching from afar. Has Meghan Markle changed Prince Harry? Has her relentless climb, her uncompromising pursuit of advancement, altered the man he once was? And more than that, has this transformation come at a cost, not only to their relationship but to the legacy they were both meant to uphold? This saga is more than just tabloid fodder. It's a modern tale of love, power, and the turbulent intersection of personal lives with public personas. It reminds us of how fragile and complex relationships can be when every move is scrutinized, every gesture analyzed, and every word dissected on a global stage. If this story captivated you, if you want to dive even deeper into the twists and turns of power and passion, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more engaging stories, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think love can survive under such intense public pressure? Or is the ladder of power simply too steep for anyone to hold on? Let's talk.